Hey guys, Verns here, back again with another Supercoach video. This time it's the round 10 review. We dropped to 2,544, went up 472 places, and we're just above that 2K ranking. So, once again, trending in the right direction. Actually, if I had to be honest, a little bit of a disappointing week in the sense that we had a great score and we just didn't really. It really wasn't as special as it should have been. If everyone's probably watched videos already this week. Sorry for mine being so late. I just didn't really get around to it earlier in the week, unfortunately. George dropping over 2,700, Shorty dropping over 2,600. I got a lot of really good scores, so a little bit disappointing in that aspect, and it felt bad in the sense that obviously Ashcroft came out and had a massive game, and the thing I feel about Ashcroft is I feel like the people that had him were the people that were behind. At the end of the day, the people who were ahead enough had already moved on Ashcroft, and for those that had maybe injury concerns or things like that, that meant that they were a premium behind, meant that they had to keep Ashcroft. And then they kept Ashcroft the week extra that I would have got rid of him, and then obviously Hopper hurts himself last week, so then you have to move Hopper instead of Ashcroft, and they sort of get gifted in this situation where being 1 week behind meant that they held Ashcroft for 2 extra weeks because of the Hopper injury, and then they get gifted with this 124, and it just felt a bit bad that way. Humphrey also comes out with a massive score. Unfortunately, we ran Sharp, and we had to take his 47, so huge score difference there, like good 80 points. So huge for everyone that ran Humphrey. They got the 80k this week, and even with the average scores going forward, he should make another 70 very easily. So everyone really gets a massive jump on us there. And then even Rory Atkins comes out with a good score. So a lot of good scores that we missed from rookies, which is really painful in the sense that Humphrey's going to make good money for everyone who has him. Atkins probably going to do his thing. Ashcroft has restarted his cash gen, and we're in a situation where we're starting to run out of our cash. So it does make things a bit harder moving forward. But look, the team is still looking good. This week we're not actually really going to be able to make an upgrade, but we'll jump into it and we'll just go over how it went. We ended up going with the Bont C. The reason I sort of did that was there was just a lot of big scores early, obviously with Butters and Rosie and whatnot coming out of the gates, that I wasn't really satisfied with Oliver's 120. And look, there was massive scores all around. We ended up with Bont's 112. It's a little bit disappointing in that retrospect, compared to all the other big scores around us. But it's not the end of the world, I guess. It's a little bit disappointing. Weddle's score was on our bench, and there was no way to get that on field. This week we just didn't have a loop for any of our rookies, so we just had to play them straight on. In hindsight, I think I definitely would have played Weddle over Sharp if I knew Cincotta wasn't going to get up. In that sense, I thought Cincotta potentially could have been a sub, and then I thought that, but then also I definitely knew George Hewitt was going to be the sub, and I don't know why I just was scared that if Cincotta gets named as the sub, then it sort of ruins me in that sense. So what I did run is with Cincotta in the midfielder meant that if he got named as the sub, I could always move Angwin on field as the worst case scenario, who only got a 21, so that really, really sucks for us. But yeah, he was never going to be run as the sub, and I don't know why I thought that. I really should have had him in the back line there, I think. And then taken Weddle over Sharp, which is just a little bit, hindsight's 2020, guys, unfortunately. But yeah, definitely some massive scores in the sense of Sinclair going up 160, Merritt going the 162, Dunkley getting the 153, which is awesome. Rosie with the 140, really big scores, and a lot of all the premiums in the midfield, they hit over the 100 mark. Most of them, as we can see, over that, close to that 120 plus, which is really nice, and hopefully something we can see more of moving forward to continue getting these bigger scores. Now, as you can see, cash gen wise, our problem is that we have 67k sitting there, and we do have options to upgrade. I mean, I could move on Wilmont, but he's reset his break even. He's going to earn us some good money over the next few weeks, and I'm not happy with any of the rookies that we can go to. So back to 15 break even should earn us some money. Weddle, great break even, going to earn us some money. Mitchell, great break even, going to earn us some money. So the only real players I can really move on are one of those three, but they're all going to be earning us money going forward. So I just don't want to do that. But we'll go over, I guess, the scores. Dawson comes out with a 92, cool. Zeeble was actually started like a house on fire and then just sort of trailed off there. Dacos had a good game with so much attention put into him from Ed Kerner. Great game to see Pies get up again. Was really happy with that. And then Sinclair, I was listening to this one on the radio, and I just kept hearing his name, and it sounded like he was running off halfback and just getting the cheap handball, and then he got the good kick, or he got the good swing to him, and then he just made the damaging kick inside. I did hear him go into the midfield every now and again, and I just don't know what happened here in this sense that it's hard to say because obviously I couldn't see what was happening, but for what I could hear, obviously, and his score shows that he was very much getting involved, but it sounded like he was more or less coming off the halfback where we want him to be. He did move into the midfield as well, though, so I don't know if he generally just had a good game in the midfield. But yeah, really happy to see that from him, and that's a big close on the Stewart-Sinclair gap. Something we're obviously monitoring from week 4 onwards. We had Sinclair over Stewart. We had the opportunity to go for one or the other when I think we moved on Doherty, and we went with Sinclair. Sinclair's behind about 200 points, but he did just put about 70 points on Stewart this week, so brings it back to only a 130 difference. And as I mentioned, I want Sinclair. I believe in Sinclair's durability, so I do think he'll play every game, and that's somewhere that we can, if we have some big games like this, we can definitely catch Stewart. But then if Stewart goes down, we'll definitely be worthwhile in the end. Will Day, a really, really poor game, but he was getting attention. I did actually watch this game because I was at my partner's grandparents with her brother and dad, who are Hawk supporters, so that was on the TV. Even when the Pies game started and they're up by 80, they were just sitting there like, no, we need to soak this in while we can. So I had the Pies game on my phone instead when it started. So, yeah, but Day, Weddle, awesome 2 goals in the first. That was great. Day, obviously, I said he got tagged, but Weddle, he was just really damaging off the halfback, playing that relief role where he just ran forward. He plays a very high halfback where he gets aggressive. He kicks the goals as well. He wants to get that hand pass and boom it from 50, which is, really cool. And then Mitchell, I'm just going to add him in with the Hawks boys as well. He just had a solid game. They're winning by a lot. They're swinging the ball. He's just getting involved because West Coast just couldn't score. They had terrible offensive transition, so Hawks were always getting the ball, as to why Sicily had a massive score as well. But he was just getting involved in sort of the swing plays and whatnot, and then transitioning out of defense. Wilmot, once again, playing off the halfback much, much better. That's what we like to see with this role. While Rich is out, he's going to keep scoring really well for us. If he can keep putting these 80s out for us, he could maybe easily put good, I'd say 50 to 100k on his price right now, which would be really cool. It isn't going to be the fastest growth of cash, though, unfortunately, and that just... Right now, that's sort of what we just need, and that's why, as I mentioned, missing a Humphrey who got 80k this week, decent game next week, he should be able to get another 50k. He's going to make 130k in 2 weeks, and even if he was to just flop, he has a great buy, so you're going to play him until he's buy, but even if you got rid of him after that, after he has like 2 average games or something, he's going to make you enough cash and be a good upgrade, so it's really, really unfortunate to miss that. Just bring that up because obviously Brisbane won against Gold Coast, even though Brisbane did pump them at the end of the day. Jumping down to the midfields, Bont, really unfortunate he took that hit. He was definitely tracking for that, say, 125 sort of minimum. But yeah, unfortunately took the hit and didn't really get there. But the 112 will take that bit of scaling in his favour, which was very nice. Oliver put out a 120 in a game where Melbourne got dominated. Really bad for any Gawn owners who were really hoping for Gawn to have a big game this week. Probably put the VC on him, and I recommended that. Saying that Teakle was out, Lycett did come in, which is different. And we have seen this with Port before, where they versus Melbourne. They really get physical with Gawn and just try and keep him down. It's not my favourite tactic to just be super physical and aggressive with superstar to keep them out of the contest. Ed Kerner, who did that to Dacos, but you know what? They're playing to win. They're not playing to entertain. And I guess that's all perspective as well. If you're winning, then you're probably entertained. So depending on your team. Petrarca, the 103, we take that. That's one of his lower games he's had with us. That's fine. Oliver potentially also being out. Sorry, I just want to mention the forecast is low. Yeah, I believe it's short-term injury is what's been talked about. So maximum is what a month is, but then saying that he has his bye in 4 weeks' time. The third week is the Gold Coast Geelong game where we're only going to be fielding 18 anyway, and I've already got 19 premiums on field, so I'd be losing Oliver for probably another premium score, so it's probably not going to be that much in that retrospect. So it's really just at worst case 2 weeks of scoring, even if he's out for a month. I would actually prefer for him to be out for 2 weeks, is what I'm thinking. Come in for that week against Gold Coast, where Gold Coast Geelong have their bye. Hopefully have a pretty average game, and then he has his bye. Maybe an average game after that, but it would be good to, I guess, give him that rest to make sure he's coming back. Saying that, I'm going to be moving on him. I want to be aggressive. I want to gain ranks, and if I hold Oliver now, it's not really going to advantage me. I have plenty of trades, I think. I have the boost up my pocket. I do think I have the ability to potentially get Oliver back into my team if need be. So I do think I should be able to sit back, move him on, and play a bit more aggressive now to try and make up these points. I'll talk about that a bit more in a bit. Liberatore came in for us this week, put out a 126. Very happy with that. Happy with it, but also a little bit disappointed. He had the opportunity to probably go 140 plus. He could have kicked the first goal of the game, and it got touched on the line, which was so unfortunate. And then he had another mark inside 50, like directly in front, 30 meters out, something that you'd expect in the slot, and he just put it on the side of his boot and got another behind. And look, it's probably not that many points overall. Him kicking a goal over the behinds in both those cases, you'd say maybe a minimum of 10 points. So pushes him much closer to that 140. It's not a huge deal, but would have been nice nevertheless. Especially in scaling terms as well. Would have been very nice to kick those because one was in the first quarter and one was in the second. Tom Green came out with a good game. We'll take that. 119. He's really been rock solid for us this season. Merritt finally comes in with a good game. I know a lot of people probably have brought him in by now. I obviously got him like 4 weeks ago, and he's been pretty average for us. Yeah, look, George definitely had the C on him. Was expecting a big game against Richmond. I couldn't really trust it after a few weeks of just really underperforming scores from him, and I had to go straight C when I was going VC on Oliver. So it's just how it was. Unfortunately, would have loved to have used him in a C option if I had the ability to, but I didn't feel like I did. Neil bounces back with a good game. He's at a cheap price. A lot of people are probably looking to trade him in this week. They're going to get him 100k cheaper than what I got him for, and he's been pretty underperforming in the team while doing that, unfortunately. Johnson came in as the sub, had a good game in that time. Hopefully see him again next week. Hopefully not as the sub, but hopefully he can slow burn us some more cash moving forward. Angwin didn't see this game. As I said, I was driving, so I was listening to the radio. So, I don't know what to say, but 21 tells me he wasn't involved. I don't think he was the one that got subbed off either. I didn't really hear his name on the radio, so I just don't know what happened. Unfortunately. Sharp with the 47 and got subbed off, which is unfortunate. If he didn't get subbed off, he really could have probably pushed for that 60 to 70, which would have been very nice considering it's an on-field score for us. But hopefully they're just subbing him because they don't want to burn him out or anything like that. As a rookie coming in, probably doesn't have as much match fitness as the others. Saying that, I'm pretty sure Sharp's a steeplechaser, so he's like extremely fit. But yeah, maybe just playing it safe with the first gamer there. In a game though where they had definitely seems like they had won, so I don't know if they needed to take Sharp in that situation. Yeah, a bit of a weird one. I feel like he probably should have kept playing that game out, but that's okay. Darcy 91. You know what? He matched Stewart, and when I was watching this, that's kind of all I wanted. I was like, just match Stewart. He was a little bit behind Stewart in points at the time, and I was like, if you can just match Stewart, I'll take that. And he did, literally. They both dropped the 91, so we'll take it. Marshall 126, good score. He was up against Briggs. Heard a lot of him once again on the radio doing good things, hitting bullet kicks, and everyone just like, oof. For your ruckman to be able to just lace out someone like that in the forward 50, that's crazy. So sounds like he was having a great game. Yeah, put out a good score for it too. Dunkley, big game this week as well. Taranto's doing Taranto things. Rosie came in a big game where they one against Melbourne in the wet weather too. I feel like Rosie and Butters are really good wet weather players. For some reason, they love it when when it's raining. Sheasel came with a good score, even though he wasn't that hot shot early, but then he played a lot in the midfield, it seemed, and a lot on ball, and just got involved, and they almost took down Sydney in a very bizarre loss. Goulden obviously got tagged, which is a bit unfortunate, but at the same time, he put out back-to-back 150s for us, which is awesome, and also he just looked really good to the point that it's like, well, we can't really ignore him, and with Mills out of the team, he's probably going to be the next guy. He's going to come in, take that midfield time that Mills has now given up. You could go to Warner, but they respected Goulden instead. And then we already talked about Mitchell. So, look, I've probably rambled on about the team long enough. I'm sure you've already heard about it in the other videos that you guys have watched so far. It's more or less what am I doing this week. And as I mentioned, I'm going to be moving on Oliver. And I'm going to be moving him to Laird. Obviously, we don't have Laird in our team. I do want him in our final team. I did want to try and get towards Walsh this week, but I don't think it's a big deal not getting Walsh. He's been playing a little bit of outside. He did play a lot of inside this week. I need to check what he is, if he's still tracking for that forward time. Because if he gets forward status, then I think Walsh is definitely a must-have, so he's someone that I will look at then. But he put in an average score this week. I'm sure his break-even's probably not that hot shot, so it doesn't really matter if we wait a week on him. Yeah, lost 15k, 132 break even, so we can definitely wait a week. There's no problem with that. But yeah, as I said, I don't really have the cash to upgrade anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered. So I'm gonna move Oliver onto Laird. Now, as I mentioned here, it's gonna be banking us like 70k, 60k there, which is really, really nice, because we need that cash, so that's super good to get. Laird, obviously, he just looked really good this week, and he has a small break even, so it's a good time for me to get him, because he's probably not going to be this cheap for very long. It looks like he's getting into that much better form than what he was at the start of the season. And as I mentioned, just not running Oliver for these next 2 weeks. So this week out, it would have to be Sharp on field instead, sort of thing. And as I said, Sharp on field, assuming that's like what I could move like this, get Weddle on field, because I think that might be better than Sharp. But then I'd still have to run Sharp on field, or could I loop for Johnson? No, I couldn't loop for Johnson because Track would Oliver would be stuck on field at that stage anyway. So couldn't even loophole there. Either way, I'd end up with probably a Sharp score on field, and assuming he puts out another 50, it's like I can put on Laird, and let's just say he scores 100, which I think it's unders from him and potentially maybe overs from Sharp, maybe. But that's an extra 50 points I gain on this week alone. Going into next week, yes, it's best 18, but I'm pretty sure with the way my team is set up for buys, we have 5 there, we have 6 here, so 11. We have 4 here, so we have 15. Weddle comes on, Angwin, Davey. Oh, I'm fielding 18 for the first buy, but it's not a pretty 18. Like, it's not good. If Angwin's putting out a 20, it's really not much more than than the 0 that it would be. So if I was to be tanking Oliver through this as well, it's guaranteed an extra 0 on field. So Laird, let's just say he goes out and gets another 100. That's boom, 150 points that I would gain. And as I said, I'm probably pegging him unders. So I can choose to keep Clary, save a trade, probably lose money in the long term because I'll get Laird in at a more expensive price. So lose money, save a trade. Cool. And then also lose probably 150 points at absolute minimum. As I said, the next buy after that, it's not really a big deal. It's the difference between like Clary and whoever my worst performing premium is. Let's say Day. I mean, to be fair, let's say Day puts out another 70. If Laird comes in, drops another 100, then boom, there's 30 more points. There's 180 points minimum in 3 weeks. And I think that's a big minimum. I think it could be much closer to the 250 points that I would make over that time. So I do think this getting Laird in is just going to save me a lot of points, and points that I need to really catch, because like if you add an extra 100 points to where I'm at, and I'm top 1,000 sort of thing. That's how close it is between me being 2k and the top 1,000. So Getting an extra 250 points off this trade, it's very important right now, especially because I've missed a lot of points off, honestly, not the greatest captains all year. Unfortunately, Mess Weddle scored this week. I've had bad rookie roulettes, and yeah, I've thrown a lot of points down the drain this year. That's just, I can't get back, and I need to do something if I want to get to the top 1,000, and sitting back on Oliver ain't going to do it. I have to make this trade. I have to up to Laird, and then, yeah, bank the extra points and hopefully push for the top 1,000. Now, once again, we assume if Oliver even comes back for this week, is he really going to be performing at his absolute best in that situation? Let's see, who would he even have at that time? So he's missing the Freo game, which is unfortunate because Freo being given up points. Even if he comes back by round 13, he's coming back into Collingwood, who have been really restricting mids on the points that they've been putting out. So maybe not the greatest outcome for him. Comes back into a bye. Then Geelong, who have been giving up mid points, so that might not be too bad. But I might be targeting after he's bye, round 15, get him back in if I can. I'd have 3 trades at that stage. That's what you have in the bye week. Obviously, I still have a boost, but I can definitely set myself up to make sure I get Clary back in the team at this time. So that's at least the plan moving forward, and why I think it's really important for me specifically to be moving on Clary. I think you guys need to look at your buy structure too and see, if you're going to be only 17 players in the first round because you're tanking Clary as well as everyone that has a buy, then you need to make that move. I think too many points on field that you'd be getting if you have that extra premium on that round alone, let alone this week where you're probably fielding a rookie over it instead. It's too important in my opinion, and there's a lot of good options that you can go to. I think Sarong's a great option going into Melbourne without Clary, but also Melbourne just gave up a ton of points to Rosie and Butters, so it definitely could be a good option, Sarong. And I do like Sarong as an option. Obviously, he doesn't have the track record of doing it all season long, as to why coming into the halfway point it could backfire if he does tail off, but he's at a 116 average right now, looking really good. Obviously, Brayshaw has bounced back this week as well, but a bit more inconsistent, and I just don't know what's up with Brayshaw. I mean, we do know what's up. He was apparently carrying an injury, and now it's apparently 100% fine, and he's at a very dirt cheap price, so definitely something that people could be looking at. I'm maybe playing a bit greedy this year and really going for the expensive mids across the board. I didn't bring in a steal. I didn't bring in Brayshaw. I didn't bring in these cheaper mids that others have been going for and honestly been rewarded in the last few weeks because I've put out some good scores, but I've put in the players that are in good form this year and doing really well so far. So yeah, that's at least my plan for this week. Captain wise, what are we going? I do think Petrarca into Freo without Clary. He's going to be the main man in the midfield. He's not going to get that forward DPP, but that's fine because he's going to be a top 5 minute minimum, so it's really whatever. So yeah, I think Petrarca is a very good VC here into this, so that's what I will do. And then the C option, oh man, Bont into Gold Coast, that seems pretty good. Even Liver or Bont into Gold Coast. Merritt, maybe not into West Coast. They did restrict some points on day with the tag, so definitely could go Merritt's way. Rosie into Tigers. Tigers just gave a bunch of points up the Merritt, so could be Butters Tigers option. Sorry, Butters Rosie option. Dacos definitely could be an option. It's one of those things where, unfortunately, with my opinion, like with Merritt, Rosie, Butters, Dacos, the way Neil's been in form, and with Dawson's sort of yo-yos of 90s to 150s, they all feel very VCE, these options. I don't feel comfortable putting the captaincy on them. Bont at the end of the day, as much as he hasn't gotten me great scores in these last 2 weeks, and I ran him as captain the last 2, he got me back-to-back 112s. Look at this consistency. Outside of this 89, everything's been basically a 110 minimum. Obviously, you have the 107 there, but you're not going to get a bad score at the end of the day. You're basically guaranteeing 110 plus from your captain with Bont. And that's why I think I have to just leave it as another Petrarca into Bont. It might be me playing too scared, but it just feels like it's right. And Bont definitely has a ceiling to put out these 160s, 180s in a worst, like, in a best case scenario. Worst case, you're getting a 110, which is great. These other guys could potentially put you out 90s to 80s. That's just how they've been. But yeah, I do think there's a good chance track just goes 140 plus on this Saturday morning, and I don't even need to worry about the VC. We have GWS playing later on, so I can definitely put the C there if that ends up happening. I just need to make sure I monitor that before the game ends. Cincotta plays early, so we'll worry about how the team I actually structure this going forward. But that's my plan. That's why I'm doing the Oliver move. Even if he's out for 2 weeks, I think it's going to be still very beneficial. And even if he comes back after 2 weeks, that doesn't mean he comes back 100%. And there is always that chance that you put him on, you take him off at 3/4 time if your team's pumping. I mean, I haven't seen Melbourne do that, but definitely could be something that they do. Yeah, I don't know. I think he probably just gets eased back in. He never gets eased back in. I don't think Oliver knows how to get eased back in. The way he plays 100% every day, and even if he's carrying something, he's going to just, or if he's still not 100%, he's going to play 100%. So, look, I think for the 2 weeks, it's definitely worth it. And if it extends longer than that, to the 3rd week, and then he's bye, there's no problem there, and I can get him back in after. I think I will have that ability to. We have 3 more upgrades to go. I think Mitchell, Weddle, and Wilmot will be really making us some cash. Unfortunately, it's a bit lackluster from the rest of them. They're going to be a bit more on the slow burn side of things. Look, we have the buys coming up where there's 3 trades available each week. There's a good chance you can easily use 9 trades in that time, 9 to 10. Because there is 12 available over the next, over the 4-week buy period. So having the 14 trades, I think it's plenty. Having the boost, definitely plenty. So I think I'll be all good moving forward. But yeah, I guess that's just the wrap up of my team. Once again, sorry I got it out late this week, guys, but I think it's looking good. I'm looking forward to another good week next week. We are just, as I mentioned, slowly making that progress up the ranks, just above the 2K now. So hopefully we're not too far off cracking that 1,000 mark. As I mentioned, 100 points really separates me from the top 1,000. So yeah, if we can come out with a good week, then hopefully we can do that. So yeah, anyway, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure to leave your likes, comments below. I want to say shout out to everyone that did have a massive week this week. I lost in my YouTube 2 league against Fish and Crips. Great week from him. I actually versed Shorty in his Supercoach 2 league where he beat me. If you guys watch that video, he actually shows the leagues because he has these 10 wins. And he does make the comment that he lost to some pretty average teams and then realizes he beat me, who was sitting second on the ladder. I was having a pretty solid season in that for me. I've been having a pretty solid season in all my leagues, honestly. So it was good for him, I guess, to get me there. Shout out to Darcy, who I know one of my mates in our leagues. Sorry, she's actually sitting top of that league. We just would have seen her there, baby brain. Dropped to 2,600, her biggest week she's ever had, so she was really happy with that. This week, oh my god, this is pretty pathetic, this league. No offense, boys, sorry. That is my mate's league, and look, some of them don't really pay that close attention. They make the starting team, and I think they forget about it. So that's just how it is. But anyway, yeah, thanks again for tuning in, everyone, and I will catch you all next week. Peace, later.